continuing on the theme of things from 1979, following on from that last video on that Hitachi, I picked this Sanyo M7700LG, I think it is. I picked this up ages ago, months and months ago. I think it might have been before Christmas of last year as I was filming this. I've always liked these little Sanyos. They're just really cute, really plucky. I love the fact that despite this is missing one, they had the two antennas, and they kind of made them at the same time as making a slightly bigger model. I can't remember the exact model number, but there was one that kind of had this look of a much larger unit, but it wasn't physically that big, and they even advertised it as mini and slim on the top. And this one at the same time, I just really love the look of this. It's just really clean design. It was made under a few regional variations, like this is the LG, because I think it denotes that it includes long wave. There's a 7700F, I think, which is a European model. I've got a PDF service manual for this, and it's amazing. It's a really good service manual. I'd expect no less from Sanyo, to be honest. Probably one of my favourite brands. And this one, it's not in the greatest of shape. I'm not able to power test it because these don't have an internal transformer. They have a wall wart pack, as people call them these days, external transformer, and whatever I try to use, I can't plug anything in because it looks like it's had some sort of impact at the power input here. The casing's cracked and the actual socket itself is slightly dislodged, so I can't actually fit anything into it. But I fully expect it's going to want the tape deck all doing out. I've got some replacement antennas. They're not exactly the same, but they'll be close enough. I do actually have the one that was off this. It's just that it's actually broken at the point where they're kind of pressed on. It's actually snapped. It's not just come off, it's fully snapped, the original one that came with it. And this one's got a little bit of a dent in it, and I think, no, it's the other one. The other one's got one that was broken off, has got a bend in the end section as well. So it was a given that they were going to have to be replaced. And for some reason, one of the screws out of the back of the handle is missing. So I'm careful to not pick this up by the handle because it makes it bend and it makes it do that. I don't want to snap it. But it'd be really nice if we could just get this cleaned up and get this going. And the speakers also seem a slightly different colour, and I don't think they will have been swapped or anything. It's probably just a case of sun exposure or something like that. There are a couple of marks in the silver, in the paintwork, right on the corners. It's really common to find the corners rubbed off on these. Frustratingly, they were just cropped out a shot on the pictures, so when it arrived, that's the first time I'd seen that. There's a bit of a mark on the bottom as well. Again, I think that's probably a bit of a mark in the paint, and it's mucky. So I think we're going to take it apart, see what the extent of the damage is on this power point. Hopefully it's not cracked a board or anything like that. If it has, I'll have to deal with it. And yeah, see what we can do with this to get it cleaned up and get it going. Another little feature I love of this, really kind of shows off the sort of market that they were aiming for. As well as the handle, it's got these little points on the sides where you can attach a strap, so you can kind of have a big shoulder strap to carry it around. So it just feels like it's right on the cusp of that move towards the really compact kind of youth market, really kind of fashionable recorders, but despite that, it's still really nicely made. The top's a little bit loose as well, this top panel, so there might be some glue under there that we need to address. But yeah, it's just really cute, and I think it deserves a second chance. So let's open it up and see what state that socket is in, and if there's any way we can put a bit of power on it just to see what it does and what it doesn't. So I'm going to put down an old pillow protector here just to protect the surface, because I'm going to lay it face down. The sponge in the battery compartment, amazingly, is fine. That's usually the first thing that you find that's crumbling. Not on this one at all. And no signs of battery leakage. The battery compartment is clean. There's a bit of something here that feels a little bit sticky. I wonder if there was one maybe that was leaking a bit in the middle, but on the actual terminals themselves, they're fine. They're spotless. Unusual thing about these models is the band switch is on the back. It's like they ran out of room to put it on the kind of main fascia. So yeah, there's a bit of green in a screw there, so that makes me wonder, has there been a bit of a leakage incident in the middle of the pack? So that's kind of a dark, almost a gunmetal colour, that screw. I'm going to hazard a guess this one will be the same. Yep, they're the same. Actually, that one is about the same colour on the body of the screw. It's just a bit silvered at the top. That's the battery compartment, that's shorter. The side one is the same. Same again. And I noticed on this side there's a little screw underneath the handle. That may not be anything to do with it. The back has come straight off. Okay. There is a couple of connectors here for the antennas. So looking at that, let's just get that into shot. Something feels sticky inside that. So they run along two little tracks here, and the one that's on the top goes to the one nearest the tuning knob, and then the other one, it's probably not critical what order they go in, I'd rather match it. So yeah, it's mucky inside. And what was that screw that I was removing there? It feels like part of the handle assembly or the front fascia. So I bet there's another one under this tuning knob that matches it. So for now, I will screw that back in. That is where our DC socket is, and yeah, it's sitting at a jaunty old angle. And I don't think I see any signs of the board being cracked or anything like that. A connector here that I've read in the service manual. Oh, and a postcode. Interesting. Never noticed that before. It's got a postcode written on the bottom. When you used to write your, this is weird, a conversation came up about this the other day with someone, that people used to write their social security numbers in the States and their postcodes in the UK on things that they deemed valuable because they expected that they'd get stolen. So we've got a counter belt that is intact, an idler tyre that doesn't feel too bad, and a capstan flywheel belt way down there that is intact. I think there's a, yeah, there is, it's there, there's a third one, so I think this is a 3-bolt deck. That's for take up. So there's a little gear and a pulley there. Loads of dust, but that's good that it appears so far. The belts won't be any good, but they're not turned to glue. I expect them to be turned to glue, and they're not. So I think we've got a lot of dust to get out of here. Take this board off. I believe we have to take this board out. It lifts out of the way somehow. Might have to desolder some wires. We'll have to get this board off. The dust is falling out. To get to the tape deck anyway, but I think we ought to do that to address this switch. It's a centre negative 7.5 volt connector. Thank you, train. Too right. Just sort of pushing on it just seems like a really bad idea, and also really ineffective. It must have taken a fair old whack for that to bend like that and yet not crack the board. But if I try and push it back in place, apart from making my finger numb, I'm worried that it is just going to crack the board. So I think what I'm going to try and do is heat the solder joints. Bear in mind that this white wire, which is actually a positive wire, because it connects up to the positive terminal of the batteries, and there's green wire here, which is in continuity with the negative side. I've got those two wires. They might pop loose, but I'm just going to see. I've got a little bit of flux on the join. I'm just going to see if I can get it to move a bit with the solder joints heated. Trouble is, there's all these joints to heat at once. Yeah, I don't feel that's hot. Is it moving? Yeah, it kind of did. That might be enough. That does fit. Doesn't feel great. I don't know that the socket wasn't damaged. It might have been. It might end up actually replacing the socket. We'll see. I'll see, because this is one of those battery clips, I'll see if we've got continuity. It's really, really loose, so it might have smashed the top of the socket out for this side. Well, we have continuity to something. Okay, I've set the power supply to 7.5 volts and I've set the current limit. Let's turn it on. See if it does anything. Yeah, okay. 70 milliamps, I can hear it hissing. Crackly speaker. Let's switch it to mono. Yeah, there's something there. Very crackly volume pot. I'm getting a little bit of crackle in the speaker on this side. Only this side appears to be actually outputting audio. It's popping. That might be the pot. But it's working. Cool, okay, we have life. Let's see if we can stand it up. Does the tape deck move? No. Nothing. Ah, okay, yeah, there is a bad connection on that power connector. I think that probably has been damaged. Probably will need replacing, but it's moving. There's no torque on it at all, as to be expected. But it's all there. I thought the belts would be gone on this completely, but apart from that damaged power connector, the counter isn't moving. That's not a surprise. That's probably the slackest belt, because they usually have the least tension anyway. Crikey. Yeah, that's so we've got really bad pot and probably a couple of really bad pots, and that power connector needs sorting out. That can be enough to do any take up at all. It is actually rewinding. It is actually playing. Okay. It kind of works on the Scrapper George Formby cassette. So yeah, I think we can clean all the crap out of that and make that much better, but I suppose the main point to sort out is that power jack. So I think, judging by the mucky state of it, I think the best thing to do is going to be to actually remove the chassis. I've been looking through the service manual and it's much the same as a lot of others. It's basically pull all the knobs out, matron, and there's a couple of screws down here, and I think if we remove these two, we'll be able to pull the whole chassis assembly out. So yeah, it's definitely, I can see there, I think there should be some glue underneath this edge and it's probably perished. So there's some little folded over tabs there, which might mean we'll be able to remove this aluminium trim piece without bending it, because that's critical. And I might be able to gently wash it and re-adhere it. Yeah, these two screws, as I said earlier, I'm certain they're for the handle assembly, because the strap lugs on the side and the handle assembly appear to be all one thing. Not concerned with that for now, although we do need to address that handle issue, but when we come to do the cabinet cleaning we'll do that. But I think for now I just want to get all the controls off. It's a bit stiff. Got fine tuning out of control there as well, that goes on a smaller shaft on the end of the tuning pot, and they're in really good shape actually. They're mucky, but I don't see kind of corrosion or anything on this particularly. Tiny bit of muck there, but the metalwork and the buttons on top look tidy, so I don't think it's been damp or anything, fortunately. They look like they're going to be the same as those. Yes, they're identical. So we have to remove the plug. Is that one the same? Yeah, that's the same again. So there's a connector here that we have to undo. That's probably for the speakers. Yeah, that goes down to the speakers at the front, and that feels loose. Anything in the front. Might also have to eject the tape door. Sometimes you do. Interestingly, there are some wires that come off the radio tuner board. It does mention those actually in the manual. I think they have to be desoldered, red, green and pink, because they are clipped down at the front. Where did they go then? It says LED. Yeah, I can see some LED at the front. I was hoping that that was actually part of the chassis, but it's not. It seems to be part of the front panel, so I think we do have to desolder. So we've got a pink wire, which is just here next to this little transformer, and then a red and green where it says LED just above the tape counter pulley there. The red one is just awkwardly snaked behind that little black wire. Shift that out of the way. That's it. So there's still wires at this edge that connect to the microphones, and they are well, they should be glued in, but they actually look, oh, they're loose, they're just pulling out. Well, that one did, The other one I think is glued. No, I think there's going to have to be some desoldering here. I think that microphone element is supposed to be glued, but the glue has perished. So there is a black and red wire there, and then this blue and black wire here, which you've got, yeah, that's an outer sheath, so that connects to the left microphone. So the two grounds connect in the center, and then we've got the white, red from the blue, the two grounds, and then the red and white from the black. I think we'll have to remove all of those. And then the red and black here, it says LED, so the black connects where it actually says LED. And the red is just across from it. Aha, okay. Yeah, that's quite a bit of grime in that I'm just gonna take this outside, I think, and just brush it out, just to get the initial gunk out of it. There's quite a lot of gunk on the erase head there, actually. Almost looks like that. It's kind of white, it looks like tape binder. I wonder if somebody's played a tape on this that was squealing or shedding if the binder was breaking down. But all clean, it's all good. So interesting, in the service manual, I think it's this bit, or maybe this bit, they call it the governor board. It's got to be that. It wouldn't be a bad translation for the meter, would it? Of course, no, it is a governor board because it's connected to the motor. So there's a speed control. So it's an electronic speed control for the motor, because that's a tiny little motor. I guess most internally speed controlled motors at the time would have been quite chunky, so they've used a smaller motor and used an external board, a little bit like that Sony that I did. I don't think it's got a feedback winding because I only see two wires, but I guess it's just a voltage regulator. Must be, yeah, because I see a transistor on a heatsink there. Well, that's quite cool. You can see muck inside the headphone jack as well. But yeah, we'll take that out, give it a good brush out to begin with. Look at all the fluff on the top of the dials there. No wonder they're scratchy and crackly. I think, yeah, we can get to them from the back. Alright, so a couple of things to bring us up to speed. Took the chassis outside and gave that all a brush out. I did the same with the front. I think I got that timing perfectly right because it's just started to bucket it down outside. And a couple of things to point out. Around the top of the switches there are these little felt covers that go around the switches at the top here. Underneath those, I don't know why, I'm not sure what they're for, but there are some little sort of foam circles that go underneath, little foam pads, and they had, you can see a bit there, they disintegrated. They left a lot of crap around the switches and I had to brush all that out. I'm not sure how necessary they will be to, you know, function normally. I don't see why these on their own would be an issue. I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Maybe I might have to make some sort of little spacer or something. I'm not certain, but they just want cleaning. It's not a huge concern. They are standard switches, although that one's a bit longer, but they're the standard sort of Alps style switch that you find in a lot of these late 70s, early 80s boomboxes. I've dealt with them plenty of times, so they're nice and easy to clean. As I say, I've only brushed this out with a scruffy paintbrush and kind of blown it out, but there's still some muck lodged in underneath the board in the transport and everything, but just to get the first sort of thick of it off, really. The pinch roller there, the surface of it looks quite shiny. The outside of it looks a bit weird. Hopefully that will just clean okay. Yeah, the heads and everything will want to clean. Then we'll get this off, get to the belts. This top piece did come off. Yeah, I was right about the adhesive. That's just sort of dried out, started to break down, and this just sort of slid off quite easily. So I'm glad about that, because that makes that easy to clean and less likely to get damaged. I've got to take the speakers out, and the front tape door is really easy to get off as well. There's a little tab on that side, and if you just, when this is in, if you just press on that side, it doesn't take too much just to release it, and then the whole thing just pops straight out. No springs or anything. The little eject damper mechanism is here, and it looks like if you push it from the front, it's on a slot and it just comes straight out. That of course is greased. There's even some grease around the outside, so it has some resistance, so we can take that out, put that aside, so that it doesn't get damaged when we wash it. The FM stereo indicator's there. Yeah, that's where the mic went and it came out. That's the other mic. So we've got stereo mics, the speakers of course. Also looks like, I think if we take the speakers out, hopefully be able to get the grills out, because the grills want cleaning, and I need to see if there's any, that one for example, if there's any rust or if it's just muck. Postcode aside, it's now starting to make sense that what I said about a battery leak, it's happened in the middle of the pack, and that's where this has come from, and that's where that mark on the front has come from. I didn't quite notice that really before, I guess because it's on the bottom, and yeah, it's sort of attacked the silver paint, hasn't it? That's what's done that, and it's had a battery leak. Let's have a look under these speakers. Let's start organising these in some bags. Yeah, the grills just lift straight out, that's good news. So they're definitely painted because they're glossy, and they are silver on the back. There is some rust in that corner on that one. But yeah, they're plain on the back. So if they were powder coated, I would think they would be black all around. So they're done with some sort of paint. So there's a little locating tab that went pointing towards the tape deck, and then there's the holes around the edges where the screws went, so they'll locate back exactly where they were, which is good. So that's that. So, ooh yeah. So little speakers, yeah, there's a lot of dust and muck in there, a couple of little splash marks, mucky dust cap there. So I think they'll want cleaning, and I think they want inking as well to, yeah, you can see on the back the dark grey, right in the back where they don't fade, even darker. So yeah, they shouldn't be brown. So I think we'll clean those up and ink them. So we've got a red and white wire from the right side. Well, I guess let's do this as we're looking at the back of it. So on the left speaker, we've got a red and white wire. On the right speaker, we've got a blue and white wire. The white actually goes to the positive on that side, on the side on the left, and the blue goes to the positive on this side. That's curious, but as long as they go back the same way. So we need to take those clips out, put the iron back on so they don't get damaged, get them out of the way ASAP. Yeah, they are a really different colour, and you can see actually a shadow. So yeah, that must have been, because there's a bit of a shadow at the bottom of that one as well, so that must be difference in sunlight, I guess. So again, they want a good brush and clean up the dust caps. They look pretty central, pretty straight. Yeah, not too bad. They're only little things, but they are what they are. Do the grill out. Yeah, again, that has got some rust, I think. So we get those cleaned up. They may end up getting repainted, we'll see. The chrome plastic is heat staked in, so that's not removable. The chrome surround, that's fine, we'll just clean that. Shouldn't be an issue. Now we can remove the handle, because that screw at the side, that's too big. Screw at the side is exposed. I need to start bagging up these screws to keep them in order. So the black screw that lives under the tuning dial, and then that's, because it's going into metal, that's a little black machine screw. The one on the other side, so you just lift out and the handle comes out. That's great. So that means now we can properly get this handle apart. There's little tabs on the back there. They're not on the other side, on that side. They're only there. And the handle, of course, closes that way. So that has to go that way. So those tabs have to point towards the back of the machine. You get it the other way around, the handle will go the wrong way. So it's got to be that way. So that, yep, comes straight out. There's a reinforcing rod on the inside of the handle. Handle has got a little bit of a bend to it. That one's loose as well, actually. Let's take that out. Yeah, that again is a machine screw. Now, if that's a metric screw, I hope it is. There goes the reinforcing rod. If that's a metric screw, I can replace both of those with matching, probably hex bolt screws. Does that have holes? Oh yeah, okay, that has holes in as well. So we can take that out while that gets washed. Not mix it with that. That's cool. And I need to start bagging up some of these screws so that I know what they came from. Just noticed as well, there's a shield on the back and a little sprung tab there that must touch that. That's cool. So there's a ground connection there, or shielding connection, I guess, for the tape preamp section that doesn't have to be screwed on. And that, of course, is the band switch there, so just a little linkage, so we need to make sure that's in the matching position and put that back on. I bet I have to do that a couple of times. Thankfully this is probably the easiest bit. So I spent some time last night going over the speakers, brushed them all up and cleaned them and started doing the inking thing I usually use. It was a bit of a sod to do on these because there seemed to be some sort of oily splashes on the cones, and in places they didn't take the ink very well. And I ended up having to go over them with basically a knockoff Sharpie, an old Wilco CDR pen, just try and get them a bit more evenly coloured. And I'm annoyed with myself because I put a little hole in the edge of this one. I think I just got the cotton bud a bit too wet. This unit is mine, this is not a job for someone else, so I'm just going to have to suck up my own mistake there. It seems, I'd love to know a bit more about the anatomy of these and what they actually use to make them, because on these older speakers you quite often get this folded paper edge where the paper seems a bit thinner and it's coated with this sort of gummy coating that I guess improves the compliance of the edge of the cone. These days we'd make it with a kind of foam surround. You can find speakers on AliExpress and eBay and that sort of thing of a similar kind of budget, if you like. You know, we're not talking like high-end speakers or car speakers or whatever, but these little low power speakers, you can find similar things. They tend to have the foam surround these days, but these have the folded paper surround as part of the cone. They're cheaper to make back in the day. And that sort of rubbery coating, whatever it is that's painted on, at this bottom edge where they gather a lot of dust, it always seems to sort of wear away a little bit, and I think that's what's happened here. So it was fine at the top edge, but at the bottom it just soaked up a bit too much liquid, and I must have just caught something and put a tiny hole in it. It bugs me. It's not the end of the world. It's, you know, it's a cheap little radio that we're just going to spruce up. But on that one, it's got a slightly shiny mark, which I think might be a little bit of overspill of that rubbery stuff that was used. But it's going to be fine. As I say, I could get some speakers to replace these. I've even seen some on AliExpress, but the centre dust caps are not chrome, they're black, so they'd have to be coloured in, and I don't want to mess about waiting all that time. For me, for a little radio like this, it's going to be fine. Once the grills are on, they're going to look fine. They're going to look way better than they did, and I might be able to just put like a little bit of light glue or something like that on that, or maybe I should just leave it alone and just get on with it. But I think in future I need to be a little bit more careful with where I'm kind of cleaning the muck out of these before I ink them, and try and ink them with a little less wetness, if that makes sense. I tend to sort of splosh it on, I think, a bit too eagerly. So yeah, these are going to want a little clean up, and then we'll see what state the metal's in, because as I said earlier, I think there's some rust. You can see, well, I can see from here down the inside of the holes. It may be the case that they get repainted, and that's a glossy paint, so not sure. Might end up stripping them and trying with the matte paint I've got, but I don't know, I'd quite like them to be the match if I can, so I might have to find some gloss metal paint. But yeah, I think despite that, which bugged me, it's not going to be the end of the world for what it is in context. I think they will be fine. So I want to put them aside, and the back panel got brushed out last night. That's going to want washing. Need to do the antennas on it at some point. I think what I'm likely to do is, if I turn this the other way around, I'll probably, as I did on the spare parts Hitachi that from that last video where I had to put some new aerials on it, I'm probably going to unscrew it there and just replace this section, because I always find that when I buy new antennas, in fact I've got one here, here's the old and new. So the old one, you see it's sheared off at the end, and it's got the bigger topper on it. It's yeah, they're slightly different, but I think it's a close enough match again for what it is. This part at the bottom here, every time I try and get one of these for an older radio or boombox, whatever, this bit is always thinner and thinner that way. It's just overall there's just less metal going on. And even this part here, which goes into the bit that goes between, into the slot, goes between these two bits there, that's often a little bit thinner as well. So sometimes you have to finagle the washers around a little bit. Again, I got away with it on that Hitachi by just replacing this section and keeping this part original. So let's try it actually. And try and get a screwdriver that doesn't slip and chew out that hole. I like JIS screwdrivers. When you take these out as well, beware that there are some really tiny copper washers. Don't lose them. Well, copper washers, there's two of them, there we are. And this new one doesn't have any washers at all. Okay then. So yeah, sort of comparing them, it's a little bit thinner, but yeah, it didn't have any washers in it. where they were cheap. So I think that if we can get a couple of washers in that, get that in there, it should just be about right. So yeah, I think that's going to work okay. On the back, I'm noticing a little bit of glue. So these are not going to be that easy just to take straight out. So I think, yeah, I need the pliers for that one. Let's spin that one around too. JIS screwdrivers, Japanese standard, different to Phillips. Don't chew them up with Phillips screws. Get yourself a set of these on wherever you want to get them from, online or stores or whatever. It's probably more of an online thing. These iFixit sets that I really like also come with quite a good range of JIS bits, including some really small ones. So if you're working on Walkman's cameras, anything Japanese really, don't chew them up with some cheapy, you know, Poundland Phillips driver. Get yourself a proper set and you'll be able to try the different heads and find one that feels right, and you won't chew them up. So I've got 4 washers, and that's on new antenna. Get all these out of the way. That's the 2 screws. That's the new one. Put them aside, and then when this has all been cleaned, we'll put the new ones on it. And then I'm going to pop out these 2 screws of the board. Which are actually different. The one nearest to the band switch is a machine screw that goes into a standoff. The other one is a coarse thread, like a self-tapper screw, that goes in this side. And apparently we can lift up this board and you have to pull it sideways to clear these sockets at the side. Then that's it. You can lift that a little bit out of the way. There's a lot of tight wiring. What I'm noticing is there's some little yellow ties around these wiring looms that may have to be undone to give us a little more slack. I can see what I'm dealing with, but I need to get more clearance than that to get the plate off the capstan and flywheel there to be able to change the belt on that. It's a nice little mechanism. It's all metal. Yeah, so there is a black wire here that's connected to a point near this capacitor. It says G. There's one that says G. So that must be ground, because there's GRE for LED, so that's green and red, isn't it? So G must be ground. We need to get that off. Yeah, there's a wiring wrap around there, like a loom thing. I'll have to take off. Oh, interesting, they're actually soldered. They're soldered to one side of the board as like a ground, so that you don't lose them. That's cool. I think possibly the better way to do this might be to remove the deck, because I don't think without removing loads of wiring I can completely get in from the back. Let's see, a screw at the bottom with the ground straps, a screw there, a screw there, a screw down there, the motor bracket, a screw there. Oh no, that's for the headphone sockets, possibly not that one, that one, that one, that one, that one at least. Let's see then if we can have this transport out from the front. So we've got self-tapping screws. Yeah, they're the same. And the ground strap on that one from the purple wire. So this one above the motor. And this one above the meter. Is that all done? So we're going to have the motor wiring, which is wrapped around the back of that governor board. Yes, it's not going to go far. I think we've got to remove this bracket for the headphone socket and governor board. I don't think you can get it around that. Same screw again. Oh, I've got to remove the governor board as well. Yeah, just to push that out of the way. That's looking better. Ah, there we go. I'm not able to move it far. There is a little wiring tab at the top I need to bend up. That's better. Again, this gives me a bit more clearance. That's from the heads. There we go. Sorry, my big fat head's probably been in the way that mostly, but that gives you enough room to work on it, definitely. So I think obviously we've got to get this plate off to get the capstan belt done. There's one screw there that seems to hold this whole plate and motor bracket on. That screw there, I think, because this sliding assembly there, there's a little tab underneath that's part of this bracket. So it looks like those, so all of them have to come out to be able to get to the back of the capstan. And yeah, look at that bolt. Bless. And I think that will then allow us to get to this belt. So it's quite compact, isn't it? But yeah, nicely made. There's a tiny bit of corrosion or something there, but nothing major. I took the counterbelt off, which is there, which, yeah, it's all very dried out. Thankfully not turned to glue. Be careful of that tuning dial there as well, but I think that's just enough. So we've got 6 self-tapping screws that we've removed. They're all the same. So yeah, let's bag those up. Right on the bag. This outer wheel here as well, I touched that earlier and thought, oh, the rubber's gone hard. I don't think it ever was rubber, I think it's plastic. This tiny wheel here is rubber around the outside, but this is plastic, and I know all the plastic contact points, like on this wheel here for example, they've got like a knurling on them, so it should massively reduce the risk of slipping. That has as well, that outer plastic. So I will just clean those. I will check the condition of that rubber, probably clean that with rubber restorer, clean it up, do the belts. Oh, is there one there as well? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 4. They've got a little bit of lock on them as well. So, oh yeah, so that assembly's got a little brass washer on it. This has got a spring on it, but that should all stay part of the same assembly, I hope. Yeah, that's coming loose. So those are the same, they're really tiny machine screws. It's a fiddle, but yeah, you can get the belt out without completely removing it. I think if I remove that one, it will loosen all the motor and everything. Alright, so that's two of the belts, but then we need to get to this one. So I don't think there's a lot of choice but to remove this one as well. So we've got three tiny machine screws that are the same. Oh, okay, there we go. If we're careful. Yeah, that's quite a chunky one. I wonder if I have to actually remove the flywheel to get to that one. I think I'm going to have to. So there's a pressure fit washer on the front of the capstan. There we go, I'll not lose that. I can remove the flywheel, and then I can get to that belt. Tip it back round. There we go. So yeah, that's actually not bad. The condition of that's not bad. It's definitely ready for changing because it's keeping shape, but it's more pliable with nose. But I wonder if they've ever been changed. No, I don't. I think no, there can't be, can they? Because the sealant was on the screws. So they're from 1979, and they do still function. Not well, but they function. This is why we love Sanyo. So yeah, I've got a lot of muck to clean out of this, and then I need to have a look at the condition of the rubber on that pulley there. Try not to lose that because there's a spring on the back of that. So I'm just gently set that down. Clean up the pulleys and everything. Clean and oil the bearing on the capstan there. Capstan's fairly clean. It's not too bad. That's really nicely machined. Really nice brass flywheel. Got a good weight to that as well. The quality is definitely there. It's always the way, isn't it? I was hoping this was going to be a quick little bank holiday project, but I need to order some belts because I've only found one in my set that would be any good, which is this one I managed to fit on the counter belt. Out of the original belts, I feel like there are three different thicknesses going on there. The counter belt being the lightest, as they always are. That's about a 1mm or perhaps just under. The thickest one, the take-up belt, that's about a 1.5mm. So the middle one is around about a 1.2. I've been looking over Deck Tech Supply, the eBay supplier, not a sponsor, that I always get my belts from when I buy them. They've got separate listings of 1.2 and 1.5mm belts. I've got some 1.5mm belts that they've sent to me in the past. They're too big, but matching up the thicknesses, yeah, I think I'm about on point with that. 1.2, 1.5. I've ordered some. I'm going to see if they fit when they arrive, if I've got my measurements roughly right. This one is too thin, but it was about a good diameter for fitting around the flywheel and the motor, and the take-up belt isn't really far off. It's very dry and you can see it's keeping shape, so it's tired and it's got that sort of sideways twist in it a little bit, but the diameter of that wasn't far off, so I think I've got one just fractionally smaller than that, but the others were definitely stretched. So I'm not going to mention those diameters until they arrive. If they fit, then we'll probably put that together as a kit, and I'll confirm what they are. But yeah, I'm going to have to order some. I know some people say sometimes, oh, don't pay a load of money for belts, just get one of those Chinese sets with all the bits and pieces in. Yeah, sometimes, you know, you get lucky with those kits that have just got 100 pieces, various cassette deck belts and all this sort of thing, but don't be surprised if they end up like this. Like I mistakenly bought several years ago 3 of those big sets of the belts. I thought I'd just get loads of them, they're ever so cheap. They actually turned out to be flat belts, so and they're quite narrow as well, so they're mostly useless, so it's mostly a massive waste of money, but also, you know, you get things like this where this is supposed to be properly cut. And a couple of these I thought, oh, they're quite thick. It's not. It's like this one, this was probably supposed to be 2 belts, because this is thicker than all the rest of them, and the width is all over the place. They can be good, but they can also be just complete crap. And like, I even picked up some of these really thin ones not too long ago, and again, it's just so inconsistent. It feels like crap. I wouldn't decorate a Christmas cracker with that. They were bought again on a whim, just to try in a couple of Walkmans, and I think it might have been a dictation machine I think I was trying to fix. I needed a really thin belt. These were ever so cheap. They came in a pack of 1,000,000. They probably just shaved off a big lump of rubber with a Bic razor or something. I've really no idea. But yeah, they're just useless. So, waste of money. So while I wait for the belts, in the meantime, I've been cleaning up the pinch roller and that little idler roller that was on the flywheel plate assembly. I took that off the pulley, and I'd got another one that I thought, a new one, would be an ideal replacement, because it is a little bit worn, that, but it's not quite the right size. It's fractionally too big. Now, after having treated that with the old can of Triple R, which I don't think you can buy anymore, actually. That's out of date. I've had it probably about 20 years. But after treating that with a rubber roller restorer, cleaning all that up, it actually feels pretty good. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it actually contacts like a knurled surface, so I don't think slip is going to be a major issue. I just wanted it to be a bit cleaner, a bit more pliable. So I'm going to pop that back on this pulley shortly. I've done the pinch roller. Again, that feels really supple, really good grip. It was just really mucky. Cleaned up the heads. The playback head alignment, I don't know if that will really come across on camera. It's the second worst looking alignment I've ever seen. I can see it's wonky. No wonder it sounded terrible. I saw one once that was even worse than that, but it does look like somebody's been playing with that screw maybe, so bagged up most of the screws and bits and bobs that are out of this plate. The flywheel and capstan is just loose at the moment. That's just there. So to make sure that doesn't get bent, get that back on and see how much further we can get once the belts arrive. So I was looking at a couple of blogs of people that have done this around the world, and no one's given belt sizes or anything. A lot of it's just, you know, pictures, but I saw one picture somewhere that gave me a good idea. I think it would be smart to get the belt around the flywheel and then loosely screw the motor back on from that point there, and I can get it straight from this one, because it will just be enough to hold the motor in position so that the tension can be put on the belt and it won't come flying off, because it's just flopping around at the minute. So just to mention, to get this one on the back, which is the thickest belt, for the rewind and fast forward pulley, I thought this was a take-up pulley, but it's not. Take-up's all in the clutch and the rubber roller. This is for rewind and fast forward, which is why it's got the gear around the outside, the thickest belt for the highest torque. To get this one out, I found the best thing to do was to put the little spot of oil in the capstan bearing first, put the capstan, the flywheel, sorry, all the way back in, put the retaining ring back on the front, and then just pull it out again ever so slightly and get the belt around it. Don't pull it out too much, because you risk the belt slipping forwards and going onto the bearing where you've just oiled it. You don't want that. You want to make sure that pulley on the other side of this is where the belt stays. You can just, because there's a lot of other stuff around this that it will get in the way of if you don't quite get it right. If you can just get the belt around that pulley, hold it, push the flywheel back down, push the retaining clip back in, then it will stay put, and then you can get it around this pulley and it's fine. It's the fiddliest one by far, even more than this I think, because one slip and you'll end up with it in the oil. But that's not happened to me. No twists in it, no twists in this one. 2 out of 3 are good. So what I'm going to do with this one is slip it around the assembly here, and then just slip it actually around the flywheel, and we'll just hold it there. It's not going to stay there, but it should just be enough. And then I need to make sure it's cleared that little bit as well, so it should come to there. Yeah, it should be enough. So it's already popped off the flywheel. This one's going to be fiddly, but if I can just get this into position, without trapping it, I'm hopeful I can get this bracket in there and get the screw into that. Just slipping around, it's not biting, so there we go. That's it, just that insert just holds that in place. Nope, done it wrong, because this bit, the belt's not underneath it. If I can loosen it a little bit. Ah, that's better. Get underneath that. I can get the tension on it. Right, there is a twist in that. That's got it. That feels good. Let's put another screw in. I'm not tighten these down yet. I'm just going to put them in place so that it stays in place. I'm not sure that's correct, because this peg here, I think this should be down at the bottom, because nothing's pressed down, but it's too high up. I don't think that's right. I think it's supposed to be there. That makes more sense. Yeah, that's correct. That feels good to me. I'm happy with that. Does anybody watch Marty's Matchbox Makeovers? It's a channel on YouTube. It's a guy in Australia. He's a British expat, but he does makeovers, restorations on old Matchbox models, and that's his catchphrase. I'm happy with that. Recommend that channel if you've not seen it already. Cool. So the sizes that I got were 37.5 inner diameter by 1.5mm thickness, a 50mm by 1.2mm thickness, and then a 47.5 by 1mm, the thinnest one, for the counter. And they all feel like a really even tension. They feel pretty good to me. We'll see how it performs. Again, I'll send a message to Deck Tech, see if they want to put this together as a kit that fits this model. I'm just doing some tests of grip here, and I have some concerns that this idler wheel might not be any good. I don't know, I think I need to get power to it and see. It's just I'm tempted to desolder the positive lead of the motor, just so I can run a voltage into the motor without, I can't power it all because I've obviously desoldered too much stuff. But tempting, yeah, just to run, I I could run the governor circuit, I guess, couldn't I? Tempted to run something into that. Just there we go. Disconnect that. Connect ground to that switch. Positive to there. Yes. Motor is going. See what that's like. Yeah, see, that's the concern. I'm stopping that super lightly and it's making this spin against that idler wheel. That's not what should happen. As I often point out when I do these repairs, here's the clutch mechanism. The outer and the inner parts of this mechanism form the clutch. This isn't the clutch, this is a transmission. This should grip. And it's not, so I can have a go at again trying to resurface this rubber pulley. Just had a look on eBay out of caution. Can get them from Germany to fit this, because it turns out, interestingly, Sanyo used this mechanism just with some modifications in their Walkmans. So that must have been quite a stout Walkman. The 3330 and I think the 4440, definitely the 3330 I've seen some pictures of. It's the same mechanism, but they changed the flywheel for aluminium. I guess would make it lighter. Took a lot of the buttons off. It just has play, stop, rewind, fast forward. So we lose pause and record. We lose the counter and all this assembly at the side here, the meter. I think the motor's slightly differently positioned, but it looks to use the same motor. It'll use the same governor circuit on the main board from a 6-volt supply. But it uses the same mechanism. So yeah, that must have been quite a stout Walkman. So the belts are great. That'd be better if that wasn't rubbing on that. But yeah, I'm not convinced there's a right amount of tension there. So we've got to sort this issue out. That was cleaned, by the way. I did clean it with a degreaser to get all the dead rubber out of the grooves, but still. Okay, just to summarise where we are, I've got obviously the new belts on. I'm going to replace this idler tyre. Ordered one from Germany. Germany is the only place I can find one that's supposedly an absolute match. I could potluck it with a set from China of mixed ones, but I don't feel like doing that. Really happy with these belts now. I've let Deck Tech know that this fits really well, so hopefully they might put a kit together. As mentioned earlier, if that appears before this video's up, I will put that in the description. So yeah, I've got the idler tyre coming. I've never had any luck, unfortunately, trying to rescue these when they're worn out like that, much like the rest of the rubber in the thing, apart from the pinch roller, which is good. Yeah, it's just going to have to replace it. I've got some idler tyres in my stock, none of them fit, unfortunately, so I've had to order one. The grills, that has been painted. I've painted both with black enamel gloss spray. I'll put up a couple of pictures of after they were stripped. What I did was lather them with a paint stripper, an old bottle of paint stripper from Wilko, left them in an old metal biscuit tin, like a shallow kind of Christmas biscuit tin, put the top on, left it overnight so it would trap all the gases in, and then took the lid off this morning and it just came straight off. Took them out, washed them, and then scrubbed them all with a wire brush, and then cleaned them with acetone, and then took them into the back garden, spray painted them. I'm going to have to wait for them to harden for a few days anyway before they go anywhere near the machines. I don't want them to outgas, and I don't want them to be soft when I'm putting them back in. But yeah, they look really good, really happy with that. They look legit, you know, they look genuine. I nearly went with a matte finish paint that I did the other one with, but these were supposed to be glossy, so I like the fact that they match. And yeah, they look really good on top of the speakers, so that's going to look really nice when it's all put back together. But yeah, I want to get that idler tied on because I want this to be right. There never seems point in doing all the belts and leaving a bad idler tire in it, so it might as well be right. So we'll catch up again when that idler tire arrives. Alright, catch up again. Day 453 million of waiting for parts. I've got a little bit of time at the minute to work on some of this, despite still waiting for some stuff to come, but I've started reassembling the front cabinet. The bonus of this having plenty of time in between last time I worked on it is that the enamel paint on these grills has had plenty of time to harden, so they've come out brilliant. So I've been putting these back together. I've just got to resolder the speaker wires back in, and this is a couple of bits that connect to the internal board. I've got to put the mic back in there. Been reassembling the sides of the handle. These have all been through my little ultrasonic cleaner, which is a brilliant bonus of this machine, that all the handle pieces, once you take the side screws out, all of it comes out, all of it comes apart in small pieces, so it's really easy just to get straight into a little jewellery cleaner and get all these all sorted out. It's just a bit more finishing off to do, but yeah, that's looking really promising. The tape door was the devil to get back on, and I'm not exactly sure why. It was just it kept getting caught on something around about where this spring is on this side, and it wasn't obvious what was happening, but it just sort of got to a point where it just went and it was fine. The mechanism there that slides out, little gear mechanism that's supposed to slow the eject down, I think the sort of stiff grease in that is breaking down a bit because it doesn't really have any effect on the eject. I think it's supposed to kind of put the brakes on a little bit, so it has a sort of softer eject. Unfortunately, that's a completely sealed mechanism. It's just a whole part, so I can't kind of get in that to replace it with some heavy duty grease or anything like that. And also, heavy grease is really expensive. It's quite often using camera stuff. But yeah, so the eject is a little bit abrupt. It's just with one of those things I just have to live with, but I'm not too bothered. But yeah, this has come up really nice. On the bottom, where we've got this postcode and where it won't really be seen, I'm tempted to try a little bit of paint matching just to see if I can try some little spots on these corners to cover up these bits where it always wears off on these. But silver paint, especially old silver paint, is notoriously hard to match because silver isn't silver. There's lots of other factors to consider, like how kind of warm or cold it is, how reflective or not it is, how metallic or not it is. So you basically do it by finding a mix of enamel paints and see if you can get something close. Then you've got to try it in all different lights. But enough waffle about that. Oh, all right, one more bit of waffle. There was a scratch on the tape door here, and I've managed to polish most of that out, the most offensive of it really. I can't completely resurface it because this auto stop is printed on the outside. It's the only thing. I wish they'd printed it a little higher and printed it on the inside, but I suppose this is not a flat piece, so that's maybe why they had to do it from there. That would have looked a bit better, I think, if it was on the inside, but it's such a minor thing. Other than that, yeah, I've just got to get some screws to go into the handle because one of them was of course missing. That's all been cleaned as well. They are M2.6 metric threads, 6mm long, which is a really awkward size of screw, so I've had to order some. Thankfully they're still used in RC cars and the model radio control cars, so it's a RC car dealer that on eBay that I managed to order some screws from. Anyway, there is too much talking in this video. I'm going to do the antennas on the back of this because I almost forgot, and just looking around for things to do. I guarantee the parts that I actually want to turn up to finish the thing are all going to turn up this weekend when I'm busy. But going around this, as I say, I'm trying to find bits and bobs that I can do to sort this out. So these two with the there's one missing. There must be one in the case. There should be two of these. One, I don't think I've taken the base off yet. We need to get these into this, so we're going to need the brass washers. That's pretty good actually. So that's one of the new screws there, the original screws. Let's see if we can get that in. I'm just going to do that lightly. Oh yeah, and that will be, once that's tightened up, that'll be fine. Okay, that went a little easier than I expected. Yeah, they're still a pretty good fit. They fit under the retainers all right. Now somebody's going to say, oh, they're not an exact match. Look, they're fine. They're honestly fine. They're nice and tight in the grip, so they're definitely going to stay up perfectly fine. I'll be way out of shot here. Let me tell you that both of those are enormous actually. Both of those stand up just fine. So that should work really well and should look really cool as well. Just really amuses me, as I've alluded to earlier, that for such a small unit, with it having the massive rabbit ear antennas, it just really punches above its weight, doesn't it? Well, this is a minor annoyance. After changing those antennas over at the knuckle joint on the old one and reusing the old screws, I have screws left over from these new ones, right? And guess where those screws fit perfectly? Where I needed those M2.6 screws for the handle, except I've already ordered some. As a friend's just pointed out, if I cancel the order, I'll need them. And if I don't cancel the order, I won't need them. I'm only quibbling over about £4, but still, I wish I'd tried that before I placed the order. But yeah, that's the handle fixed, so I'm just going to put that back on. The right colour, nice and inconspicuous, and that works perfectly. Flipping heck. Alright, time marches on as time does, and this tyre that I was trying to work on this idler wheel here, it's this one. I ordered what was supposedly the equivalent part from a supplier in Germany, and this one turned up and it's nowhere near. It's not thick enough, it's the wrong internal diameter, it's the wrong external diameter, and this has got like a step in it and this hasn't. I can't find anything like this that's those dimensions and has that kind of step. I think, unfortunately, if it came to it, I think it would mean getting something custom made, which I think would be prohibitively expensive. Now, I'm going to keep this one regardless. There's every chance that there's a variant of this or something, maybe that fits the variant, but it doesn't fit this. I've tried modifying the pulley by putting a little bit of tape around the inside to make the inside diameter bigger so I could physically fit this, but with it being thinner, it just doesn't have enough contact surface area to do the job, so it has exactly the same problem. What I'm going to do to try and mitigate it, or what I've already done, is I've got some of this belt dressing stuff, which is what you'd spray on fan belts to give them more grip to stop them slipping, and it cleans some of the kind of dead rubber stuff off there. I'm going to put this back in and I'm going to try it. Well, it still works, that's a good sign. Yeah, so it's still slipping there where it shouldn't. Alright, I've got power to the motor and I think I've worked out the mistake I was making. I was being impatient. After cleaning the rubber tyre with all manner of belt dressings and rubber restorers and stuff, I think I was getting it to transfer onto the nylon wheels, the pulleys here, which was making the grip worse again. I've got it really good now, And if I hold the take up spool, you can hopefully see that the outer black ring on this one keeps going when the center stops, exactly as it should. It's not absolutely perfect, but the tension's way better there now. I'll never get it perfect without putting fresh rubber on that, without replacing that idler tyre. But by actually cleaning the outer surfaces of these very carefully with acetone, always test acetone on a little bit of the plastic before you ever touch it, because if this is ABS, for example, acetone will just melt it. This seems to be nylon or probably Delrin, so it seems safe with acetone, and it got any kind of greasy deposit that was left off there and made this massively better. That's, as I say, I think as good as I'll get it without replacing that tyre, but after a lot of trial and tribulation and basically about 2 weeks of time lost on trying to order tyres and trying to order you know, canisters of stuff, magic sprays and whatever, that is the best I've got it so far, so that's good enough for me at this point. Alright, getting ever closer, the reassembly has begun. This is where doing a video really helps me. If I never even uploaded this video, it would still be helpful to me, because I was able to go through my footage so far and work out where all the wiring went, where the tie points were, where the screws went, that I'd labelled up in bags, as you can see, and how everything sort of slotted back together. And especially things like along the front, this orange wire that comes from a leaf switch at the back of the tape mechanism has to sneak underneath and along these pegs on this little clip up here and around here, and the motor wires that have to go behind the little governor board there as well. So that's all stuff that I was able to observe past footage of this very video and get my George Formby tape to work. Now, if I ever become one of those people that makes 1 million billion subscribers and all this malarkey, I'm going to have to auction off that tape, aren't I? The scrapper TDK that gets used to test other machines. Anyway, yes, so if I hook up my power properly, what's missing? Oh, it's probably the plug that's not in properly. There we go. Yeah, it works, but the volume and tone controls are very, very, very scratchy. I think I'm going to have to undo the 3 bolts, and it should, 3 nuts rather, and it should release this board, and I'll be able to get this little board off the front and clean those out. I've done a real quick, rough check on speed and alignment just by ear for the moment, but we're going to need to do alignment and speed, which is the screw there and the pot that's down there. We'll need to do them on the scope when it comes to the real deal, but everything's functioning. Counter, plenty of torque on the take up, rewind and fast forward, spot on. Pause control works fine. So mechanically we're all good. Excuse the train, my window's open. But yeah, I want to get off these pots here. Let's go power. So there is a screening plate on top which has got a little green wire here that I don't want to lose. I just want to see if I can get this loose enough. Alright, I think I've got it. They're playing Avril Lavigne on Radio 2. It's a bit of a worry, isn't it? So I think I should have taken that front board out while the tape deck was out, really. It might have made it a bit easier. I can't really get that out with everything in place, so I just had to loosen it as much as I could, and then just try and get the little spout on the can just about into place. And yeah, it's done a little bit of that, you know, get it everywhere kind of thing, which is annoying. can't exactly be helped. It's not going to hurt it. It's just, it is slightly frustrating. It'll dry out. But I could do with a needle bottle or something, perhaps, to I've got one somewhere. I need to find it or just get another one. I could do with maybe a needle bottle and a little, you know, little applicator thing to really get into fiddly spots like that. But now they're all working. That loudness curve where it boosts the bass at lower volume is really prominent on this. When I connected this clip lead up, it's just clipped up to the top of my bench here. When I connected this up to the radio antenna, radio 1 just went woomph, full blast. Stereo and everything works really well. That function switch needed a bit more cleaner to get it good. I've forgotten what that switch does. I'd have to look on the top casing. Sounds really wide on the stereo, as I'd expect it to. Something from the very early 80s, very late 70s. FM stereo just sounds massive. I think they're playing Pet Shop Boys now, sounds like it. So, yes, I think we are all good. Try recording on a blank space, actually. Yes, recording works. That's just stuff for scruffy radio broadcasts, but again, for an auto leveling 1979 tape machine recording to a 1986 TDKD, sounds perfectly acceptable to me. I'm not going to be using it as some big recorder, obviously, but you know, it's just good to know that it all works. I think we're good there. I want to start getting some more of the shielding on and see if it gets rid of this whining noise that it's making, because it's picking up a lot of interference, I think, from stuff on the bench. But yes, going well so far. I need to clean these buttons as well. Alright, I'm a little bit hay fevery today, but hopefully I don't sound like a fool again. I've started to reassemble this. The actual getting the chassis into the front cabinet was really difficult, and it took me about half an hour to suss out why. Everything's been resoldered. I'm just going to disconnect everything in a moment. Clip lead antenna and the power. So everything's been resoldered. I went back in the earlier footage of the video to work out what went where. So I've got the pink wire, the red and green wire. This is for the tuning and FM stereo LEDs, I think. We've got an LED here on the black and red thin wire. That's for the sound level indicator on the front, I think. And then the left and right mics, which have the ground points in the middle, the whites, and then the reds, I think. Actually, looking at that, I need to have a look again. Spotted a mistake. Looking back on my video footage at the other computer, that red and white are the wrong way around. I'm going to quickly put that right. Yeah, it really does help having the video footage, as I've said earlier, to have a look, and it helps if you follow it more closely. Yeah, this red and white are the wrong way around. So the white wires go on the outsides, and then the red wires, and then the grounds. So that should have gone there. I'll be trying to be really careful here not to touch that insulation of that LED wire. I'm sure I've caught it a couple of times. That's it. Okay, that's now correct. I just spotted that. So yeah, and the radio on it sounds great. First thing that came blaring out of it when I got a radio station was ELO's Last Train to London, which was 1979. So perfect. The first one of these I bought a few years back, a Sharp one. The first thing that came blaring out of that was OMD's Enola Gay, which again was just perfect for an 80s boombox. But yeah, the chrome on this and everything's cleaned up beautifully. It looks great. I just want to get the back on. But yes, as I was saying, this chassis was a bit of a trial to get in, and it felt like something was binding up at the top here, and it actually wasn't quite that. off and reject the tape. I'm not sure how well it'll show on here, but it was the pinch roller assembly. It was the kind of arm of the pinch roller that was catching on this corner of the casing. It would have been helpful, I think, if this opening here would have gone a little bit further along, but it was that was catching, so that's one to keep your eye on. It's not of any relevance actually to keep the door open or closed, but you might find it a bit easier if it's open to see what you're doing there. But yeah, it makes no difference if the door's open or closed. It's just a little lever that pushes the door out, just kicks it out of the way, hence it being fairly quick to open. You know, it's got the damper gear in there, but as I said earlier, it's a sealed gear, and the grease is probably broken down in it, so nothing I can do there, but it doesn't matter. So I want to connect the antennas and get the back on. Top's cleaned up really nice again. It's common on these for some of the red text, like it should say radio on there, it should say loudness, variable loudness, and a little curve around the volume control. They've kind of worn away, a couple of little scratches and dings. Doesn't matter, it's from 1979. I don't mind if it said general use. I just don't like it when they've been sort of dumped in sheds or whatever and left to rot. Oh, they're just dirty, but this is now cleaned up lovely. The chrome, as I said, looks great. I wish there was a little bit more tension in the handle. I don't think I can do anything with that because it's just kind of fixed onto a post and a rivet. But I think once it's got the back on and it stands more upright, the handle will have no trouble standing up. And of course, now I've got the screws in the handle, the handle works properly. But yeah, sounds really good. Alright, just coming to put the back on, and got to make sure of a few things and make sure that the slide switch is in the right position, because that's switched that way to FM, so that needs to match so that it doesn't miss the switch when it goes on. And connect the antenna points back up there. I don't think it's critical which way around they go. One goes to ground, one goes to antenna input, so whichever way they fit should be fine. Don't forget to do these two screws in the battery compartment with the shorter case screws first, like I almost did. So pop these in, so these hold the chassis in. Turn them backwards first until it pops. And then we have to hook the top side on first, because that's got little sort of tabs on it, so we hook that in. That's down. The back should drop into place. And that's it. And then the long screws go through there. Again, turn them backwards first. And then we've got 3 short screws left, one inside the battery compartment and one in each corner. I did on the side heat up that cracked bit a little bit and just push it back out. Again, it's not perfect, but yeah, it's better than it was. I just heated it up a bit and pushed it up just to kind of reset it into place a little bit. Cleaned beat cancel switch and some of the sockets and the muck around there, and yeah, it just wants to polish on the chrome again. But let's pop that in. This isn't the best quality plug in the world, and it's just attached to a clip lead. I think a better quality plug would have a more secure fit, but I didn't have to change that socket. Didn't really give me any grief. Interestingly, on the bench power supply I did get this to run comfortably down to 5 volts, so if you were really stuck you could run it off a USB power supply if it could provide, say, an amp of current. But yeah, they want 7.5 to operate up, you know, full volume, so let's put that on. There we go. It works.
Like her open a different accent every single day.
Oh, is that why she's your ex?
Yeah, that's going, so if I touch the aerial it's going in and out of FM stereo. The reception in here will be awful, so I can't really give this a full sort of reception test, but probably need to take that aside for that, but I just want to make sure that they are working properly. I also can't fully extend them on the bench. But yeah, let's give this a final polish up and then do a sound demo. You think the antennas are big enough? Love it. Let's just do a quick band scan then. The stereo is really good on it.
Saving summer boots. We do have to do some hard work for once. I mean, I don't ask for much, do I? To lifting you up, holding you down, being your
Wow, that really pops there.
Yes, Friday.
It's great sensitivity.
Week tomorrow. Yes, that's correct. Check my diary. Featuring.
Hasn't it? What a throwback, Natasha Bedingfield with
Finder Outlet York. Destination sales. Discount on RR.
That's loud. That's really impressive. That's picking up a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff like right in between stations as well. Obviously I can't stop on any of them for copyright, but on the FM band that's really impressive. It's a shame it's so hard to pick stuff up in the house, but in the garden away from everybody's Wi-Fi and whatever, that works extremely well. The tape. Wide stereo sounds good. This tape's recorded on ever so slightly fast machine, I think, so it's a little bit down on speed. The speed of this should be calibrated, should be alright. The speed of these, by the way, is adjustable from the back. If you take the battery compartment lid off, there's a little tiny hole you can actually get in. You don't have to take it apart to adjust the speed. There's some wiring you might have to bunch aside a little bit, but you can adjust the speed without going right inside them, which again is amazing. I love it. I've ordered a black one. I won one in Japan, and I may be getting a white one as well. I didn't know a white one existed until a couple of days ago. I really like this. Might be my new favourite machine. Super cool. I just keep looking at it and thinking that design is just super cool. Everything feels really nice on it. It was built to a mass market price, but it's just great. It's lovely.
Going to the hospital.
I love the massive antennas on it. It sounds great on radio. I suppose radio would have been its primary thing, and I guess radio stations nowadays are super loud, probably louder than they would have been in 1979. But that sounds great. On the wide setting it sounds really good. The sensitivity is amazing. For a little unit, yeah, super impressed with that. So let's wrap that up there then. I'm happy. Thanks for watching.